Hello everyone, my name is Jinhao. Today I would like to bring you guys the radical innovation. Since the time is limited and sufficient information is contained by the paper, I chose several key points from the paper and gave my presentation from the following 6 aspects. So the first, let's talk about basic introduction. In the beginning, let's take a look at what this paper has done. This paper presents several case studies of radical innovation and academic research to discuss the connection between firm strategies and behaviors. During the discussion, this paper focuses on the technological discontinuities and their impacts on firms' competencies. The broad analysis done by this paper tells us the origin of discontinuities and concludes that dominant firms are more interested in incremental innovation than radical innovation. And second, let's talk about discontinuities in supercomputing. With the high speed of growth, the industry of massively parallel supercomputers becomes larger than ever before. There is a great chance for the supercomputers to peel away business that would otherwise go to the online supercomputer makers, as well as the traditional mainframe makers like IBM. In the early time, the dominant companies in the traditional computing industry tried their hard to squeeze into the supercomputing industry as new entrants. However, the computing establishment is not oblivious to this threat. Still, taking IBM as an example, its main business is posed to the threat from both the supercomputer and personal computer and workstation. However, it doesn't fear this threat. Instead, keeps on developing its capabilities through its power parallel system unit. Since IBM believes that this is the only one way that connects itself to the future, this example provides an important requirement for us when we face discontinuities, which is recognizing the path to the future and bridging the discontinuities. For established companies, changing the path is more challenging to generate new technologies, which help the companies succeed in the market. Besides, when the rivals of the firms focus on only one point and make it, it will be a huge loss or a bigger threat for the firms. And third, let's talk about a case of focused versus dual strategy. For this part, the author provides a vivid example of two leading firms in the same industry, Sun and DEC. During this example, Sun Corporation makes a clean break from its established system to launch a new and successful generation of workstations, which can be seen in the first top picture. On the contrary, DEC Corporation is burdened by the success of its popular VAX system, and the established customer and equipment act like obstacles for DEC to bridge the continuity, which can be seen in the second picture of this. This case reveals the advantage of focused strategy and the deficiency of dual strategy. And furthermore, let's talk about continuities and discontinuities. So this paper gives a clear definition of continuities and discontinuities. Continuous change defined by the evolutionary model outlined by Abernathy and Adderbeck is the transition from an early fluid state to one that is highly specific and rigid. With continuous change proceeds, standardization plays a more important role than technological diversity. This period doesn't continue indefinitely. Both the new cycle of creativity and discontinuous change can interrupt it. The discontinuous change, also named radical innovation, in this paper, is the change that sweeps away much of a firm's existing investment in technical skills, knowledge, designs, production technique, plant, and equipment. So the table gives some examples of discontinuity in different industries. For example, in the industry of typewriters, the discontinuities can be observed when the main products of the industry transit from dedicated word processors to personal computers. For another example, the discontinuities of the lighting strategy can be identified when there is a change of the lighting product from oil lamps to gas lamps to incandescent lamps, and finally to fluorescent lamps. And in the fifth part, let's talk about impacts of discontinuities. So let's think, is a discontinuity a substitute or does it create a broadened market? The answer to this question is determined by the discontinuity itself. Some discontinuous innovations expand the market. These kinds of innovations always come from the outside the industry. Some discontinuous innovations substitute for established products and processes. These kinds of innovations mainly come from the inside the industry. The former ones allow new firms to enter the market and have an equal chance of development of established companies, such as the discontinuities observed in the supercomputing industry presented before. In such a situation, although there is a chance for the established companies to succeed, there is a greater chance for them to fail. The latter ones don't create a larger market, but set lots of obstacles for the firms to enter the market. In this situation, the established firms are more likely to survive than the infant companies. And also, is a discontinuity competence enhancing or is it destroying? According to Tashman and Anderson, technological discontinuities can be either competence enhancing or destroying. A competence in destroying discontinuity renders obsolete the expertise required to master the technology that it replaces, which comes from outside the industry. A competence enhancing discontinuity builds on know-how embodied in the technology that it replaces, which mainly comes from inside the industry. All of these two types of discontinuous innovations can be found in the following tables. So in these two tables, A stands for an innovation originated mainly from a new entrant. D stands for the innovation from established firms. N stands for the innovation that hasn't been classified. And so the sixth part, let's bring the summary. So at last, let's summarize the main points in this paper and present some additional information that has been missed in the previous parts. So firstly, established firms need not always fail in the rational innovation, as we have mentioned before. The discontinuous change can be divided into two types, and the two kinds of rational innovation can either broaden the market or substitute the market. And in the different conditions, the established firms may face different difficulties of survival conditions. Secondly, technology is not the key. Instead, the understanding of its importance makes sense. Their importance must be understood in conjunction with the human factor determining organizational competence or core capabilities. Only when the core capabilities are aligned with the management attempt to make a discontinuous change internally. The reason why firms are more willing to invest in incremental changes rather than rational changes is that the new firm size didn't address the need of their established customers. On the contrary, when the firms invest in rational innovation, the profits in the beginning are too small to be tolerated, which makes it hard for the firms to keep their customers or get sufficient incentives to go ahead. And that's all about my presentation. Thanks for your watching and listening.